All right then. Well, let's get things started. First of all, thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. We're super excited to be talking to you today about the Everything intranet. Just a few housekeeping kind of notes from our side. We're obviously on this webinar inside of Microsoft Teams, and we like to keep things interactive. So there's a chat available. So if you guys want to post in any questions or any thoughts that you've got along the way regarding topics that we're going through, please feel free to send messages in the chat. I'll be monitoring that and can respond quickly. If not, obviously ask the questions to the guys in the panel today. And we've also got a Q&A feature as well, which you should be able to see at the top. So if you click on that Q&A section, you'll be able to post in any questions. You can also post questions anonymously as well if you want to. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dan.
Thanks, Alex. I think most of us can remember a school teacher from our childhood who perhaps inspired us. And I think, once again, when you get to a certain age, most of us remember a favorite boss. And in my case, it was a guy called Gary Bembridge. As my teenage daughter would say, he's got Riz. But Gary was the worldwide vice president of the global baby franchise at Johnson & Johnson. So he was responsible for building the Johnson's baby brand around the world. And in 1999, he hired me to build Johnson & Johnson's second intranet, Baby Campsite. J&J's first intranet, for those of you who are interested, was the corporate intranet. And if you can call it an intranet, I remember it quite clearly. It was a one-page site. It had a spinning J&J logo on it, and it had a grey background with blue text on it. Apart from that, I don't remember an awful lot else, but I'm very pleased to say that we have moved on an awful lot since those days. Back to Gary. Gary was an interesting guy. He had two ruthless focuses. One was on the customer and the other one was on value. And I remember when some of his team would go to him and request budget sign off on a flight, a trip somewhere. He would question them very carefully about, why they were going, what they were planning to achieve there, why they needed the money. And then he would express to them in terms of the number of pallets of baby wipes that they would have to sell in order to make the money back on the flights. So anyway, when I got started at J&J, brand new in my job, one of the first things that Gary said to me is, don't build anything yet. Go and do some research. Go and speak to your users. Go and speak to your stakeholders for Baby Campsite. And that might seem like a really obvious thing to do when you're setting out to build a new intranet. But back in 1999, that was actually a novel idea. Those of you who are old enough to remember what websites were like back in '99 will know that most of the sites were pretty crappy and clearly hadn't been built by anyone who'd done any user research or spoken to users. Anyway, one of the things that I do remember very clearly from the research that I did for Baby Campsite was that a lot of people asked for a one-stop shop. Now, 25 years later, if I had £1 for every time I'd gone to a research panel for an intranet and heard them ask for a one-stop shop, I'd be a very, very rich man. It's such a common request that to me, it feels very much like a cliche. And that doesn't mean we should ignore it. It's a cliche for a reason. The one-stop shop is actually a very appealing proposition for users. But the trouble is that it's been a very difficult thing to deliver on intranet technology. More often than not, in fact, pretty much all the time, the one-stop shop vision translated into an intranet with lots and lots of links linking off to other systems and tools and resources. And as a user, you would probably be asked to log in, provide new login details every time you moved from one system to the other. If you were lucky, and perhaps that's more true today, you have single sign-on. But when you arrive to your destination, the look and feel is completely different to the look and feel you just left off on the main intranet. The branding was completely different. All in all, it's a really disjointed user journey for the user. And this type of thing is bad news. It's friction. Anyone who knows anything about usability will tell you that friction is bad news. It leads to low usage of your intranet, low adoption. You'll end up with a lot of non-users of your intranet, people who just think, oh, this is too difficult, it's too unpleasant even, I'm not going to use this. Friction, essentially, it erodes the value and benefits that you had envisioned at the start of your project. And so it's really important that we can get rid of this friction. Now, things have finally changed. The true one-stop shop is actually finally here. Now, we call it the Everything Intranet. And it's important to recognize this isn't a product that you can buy off the shelf. It's a concept or a vision for the modern intranet. Everything Intranet is where users are able to find and achieve everything they need to do in their working day, all in one place, on one platform, one seamless experience for everything, or perhaps more realistically, just about everything. But why now? What's actually changed? Well, in one word, it's the technology. And I'm not going to go into loads of technical detail. It's a bit like the motor car. You don't need to understand how an engine works in order to be able to drive. But I will say that it's down to Microsoft, and in particular, Microsoft 365 and the surrounding technologies. These days, it's much easier to build tools, applications, and resources inside of the Microsoft 365 system rather than building tools off it or buying expensive applications and linking people off to these other tools and systems. And so with the Everything Intranet, what you get or what you deliver to your users is a really nice, consistent, seamless, and intuitive user experience. So you get a wide range of business processes and services that you can lay on for your users right inside the intranet. You can have really good, strong personalization and targeting, not only of content, but also tools and applications and tasks as well. And you get strong findability, really good, powerful search. And that's because all of your content is all in the one platform. So it's very much easier to have the search index everything within that platform. And it creates a dashboard-like experience for the user, which is something else that users ask us for. It's highly secure because it's all hinging off the one Active Directory, and it can be accessed in many different ways as well, whether it's Teams or Teams Mobile or the browser. And finally, the barriers to entry and the costs are now relatively low. And what's interesting is that even small organizations can actually, because of this, the technologies available now, can leapfrog large organizations that have bought these big, sophisticated enterprise systems. Now, because of all of these benefits, we can deliver value for considerably fewer pallets of baby wipes. The increase in relevance and engagement that this seamless experience brings to our users means that we get much better self-service from our users. That means we improve efficiency, we drive up productivity. And it's good for the IT department too, because we take complexity out of the IT estate. We hear a lot of organizations today calling themselves Microsoft shops or Microsoft houses. Another benefit is that we're able to adhere to corporate brand guidelines and employee brand guidelines much more easily by having everything in this one everything intranet. So today, to help bring the everything intranet concept to life, we've lined up a couple of things for you. So we've got John, who's the head of consulting and UX at Content Formula. And John is going to show you what an everything intranet could look like. We've also invited our friends at LMS 365, Travis and Robin, and they are going to zoom into a particular feature of the everything intranet related to learning and personal development. And they call this human success. But before I hand over, I want to highlight why third-party tools like LMS 365 are actually important parts of the everything intranet. First and foremost, is because they're built for Microsoft 365. So these tools have been built from the ground up to work within that ecosystem and to give that really seamless experience, that familiar experience that users want. There are multiple integrations and touch points, whether it's through to Teams, SharePoint, Office Docs, Outlook. These are the types of things that applications like LMS 365 give you. And because we're leveraging Microsoft 365, it also means that you've already paid for a lot of the technology in your Microsoft 365 license. So that brings down the costs and brings it much lower than the cost of big standalone enterprise tools like Workday or Cornerstone or Oracle. So we're seeing more and more third-party vendors bringing really nice integrated products that enable the everything intranet vision. And this is our shameless plug for Content Formula. So we've got Zeralia, we've got a policy management tool built specifically for Microsoft 365. And also we've got Lightspeed 365, which is an intranet tool, again, built for SharePoint and Microsoft. But anyway, I'll stop talking now and I'll hand over to John.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. As Dan mentioned, we're Content Formula, we're an intranet consultancy, and for many years, nearly 20 years, we've been building literally hundreds and hundreds of intranets. Many of those have been that kind of more that one-stop shop model that Dan talked about. But as time has moved on, these days we're more and more looking to build this sort of everything intranet concept for companies. Now I'm showing you an example intranet here in Microsoft Teams, because these days it's very common for companies to want to deliver their intranet through Teams, and that makes a lot of sense, because if you've got an everything intranet that is adding a lot of value to your employees, why wouldn't you want to surface it in a place where they probably, for information workers at least, spend a lot of their time, a lot of their day, for at least for a Microsoft house, as it were. So this just removes another barrier. And so putting it directly in Teams makes a lot of sense alongside those other key apps that they use throughout their day. So just looking at the intranet here itself inside of Teams, we still have on an everything intranet those sort of more traditional sort of hallmarks of a one-stop shop style intranet, like we have large menus that may be targeted based on who I am to show me things like guidance and policies and things like that, access basically to information that is quite broad, and may also be something that is more just kind of signposting. It doesn't necessarily all live on the intranet, but the signposting is what the intranet provides, and that's still a very important part of what an intranet offers and delivers. That signposting, putting people in the right direction to find the information or tasks that they need to perform. Find the right place where it actually lives. And another example of that on this intranet is this sort of My Apps, this app launcher panel here, which is basically providing me with a set of customizable links to company approved apps and services. So I could just click to go onto those apps and services. I would leave the intranet at that point. So this is more kind of like the old model of it's just sending me to other applications. But I can, for example, click and edit this list of links, and I can browse through our directory of company approved lists, apps, sorry, and I can add those to my app launcher. So this is still kind of one-stop shop territory. This is still giving me that visibility, almost that map of the terrain of our digital workplace, and helping me navigate it. But when we talk about the everything intranet and what that means, what comes in then is actually starting to remove the need for me to link elsewhere. And as Dan said, it's doing everything on the intranet itself. So as we move down the page a little, we've got something here called the dashboard. Now, this is a Microsoft feature called Viva Connections that provides this capability. And the actual individual cards that you see here, like tasks and policies and performance, they are actually summarizing information that is pertinent to me as an individual from other platforms. This isn't activities or content that lives on the intranet itself. This is other platforms, other bespoke services doing a particular sort of piece of work for the organization. And this is now being surfaced to me in one place on the intranet homepage. So I can see that I've got a task that I need to complete. I can see that I've got 5 outstanding policies that I need to read and say that I've read and understood. Now, normally in the past, I would have had to probably go to separate systems to actually check for those updates and complete those tasks. Or I may have to rely on email notifications, but I've got no real one, dashboard view of all those things that need my attention. And that's what the Everything Intranet provides. It gives you that overview. So this is a dashboard. It summarizes information for me. But then, the Everything Intranet can go further than that. It's not just about seeing information. It also is about, taking action. So if I, for example, decide to interact with these 5 outstanding policies and I click details here, I immediately get this panel that pops up, and I can actually see what those policies are without having to go to that system. I can click through them and see, okay, what's the read by date, so it gives me key information about them. And then if I want to actually go ahead and read that information and confirm that I've read it, I can click here to open the document. Now, in this case, in this instance, this leaves the intranet experience, but it does deep link me to the relevant place. So it's not like it just sends me to the front door of that application and then I have to again find my way to get to that policy that I need to read and a test that I've read. It sends me to the right place, pertinent place, where I can click and say I've understood it, and then when I close it, I come back. So it's not fully, the whole experience isn't fully on the intranet, but it's further towards that experience. But then there can be other examples of integrations with other applications where actually I don't need to leave the intranet experience at all. And this is, the true Everything Intranet kind of level of experience, basically. So let's take this example here with this card for employee engagement and giving kudos, recognition, employee recognition, basically giving recognition to my peers. I can actually see that I've received kudos, and I can give kudos. I can actually bring up this mini form, and I can quickly fill in the information and submit it, and actually make that sort of transaction with that system that is providing this, which is LMS 365, and that's it, job done. I haven't needed to leave the intranet experience at all. So that's that full level of integration that we talk about with the Everything Intranet, where all of these kind of touch points and these transactions have this same consistent experience that is provided by the intranet. Now, as Dan said, it's kind of, the Everything Intranet, doing this with every single interaction and every single application to the sort of nth degree is not necessarily realistic. That there will be certain things that you can do like this, so that you've got a good kind of coverage of a lot of frequent activities with different applications that you can do like this. It won't be everything. If you need to get into the detail and stuff, you will probably have to go to that application at some point. But it is providing a certain layer of that sort of everything in one place feeling. And it's not just restricted to the Microsoft Viva Connections dashboard either, because SharePoint is very sort of adaptable tool. It allows you to actually put bespoke web parts into pages that also can create seamless experiences that actually utilize other systems. So below that dashboard, we've got here a couple of custom web parts. So one is from Xeralia, which is our policy management software that Dan mentioned. That's providing me a more detailed view of policies I must read. And there are other ones for things like policies I own and I need to review and stuff like that. And they can be added, alongside these other aspects of the intranet and the digital workplace for me to interact and see those without having to go to Xeralia. And then also on the right, we've got information about my personal learning and also the sort of the training or learning status of my team, my direct reports. And that's coming from LMS 365 web parts that, of course, are providing more detailed information. There's more real estate available for them, providing more detailed information than the smaller cards in the dashboard. So, I mean, these wouldn't necessarily be on the homepage. You could have a training area where you can go into more detail on this sort of stuff with these web parts, but you remain in that intranet experience and it's still part of the everything intranet. So if I was to click one of these links here to see the full training catalog, I go through to a page still on the intranet where I see a fully kind of browsable course catalog, which could include stuff that's assigned to me that I need to do in terms of training, but it could also be stuff that's self-service. It's just about improving my own skill set and my knowledge based on my own choices. But I remain in the intranet experience, even though this capability, this functionality and the content is being provided by LMS 365. I don't have to go to that other platform to do it. And there are some other examples here. I can click through to the training dashboard and see more information on the status of my team's training and drill into that. Again, I'm still in that intranet experience and I don't leave that experience. And then the last thing to mention, of course, is that there are also some Microsoft services like Viva Engage, or what used to be called Yammer, where Microsoft provide web parts that allow you to more seamlessly use those tools as part of your intranet experience. So a common thing we would see is that companies will have their personal Engage feed of the current employee on their homepage, so you can see all your updates that are relevant to you. But then if I went into a section of the intranet that is about a particular knowledge area that is important for our business, there might be formal information there, but alongside that there can be a feed from the associated Viva Engage community where conversations are happening about that knowledge area between colleagues. So it can be very much kind of adapted, these kind of feeds and integrations, they can be adapted depending on where you place them on the intranet so that they are more contextually relevant. So I've just shown here with this dashboard and with these web parts some elements of different workloads or experiences that are important to employees as part of the digital workplace. I've focused on kind of policy management, performance, learning and engagement. But there are, of course, other things like IT service desk and connections with things like ServiceNow. They're also possible. Basically, if your platforms have got an API, it's possible to build connectors to make this kind of stuff happen. But but we focus particularly on learn, perform, and engage, and that's a lot to do with the fact that, of course, we're partners with LMS 365. We implement their technologies as part of our everything intranets that we roll out. And I'd like to invite Robin now to talk more about LMS 365 and those three things: learning, performance, and engagement.
Thank you, John, and thanks, Dan. This is so exciting. I got to say, having spent over 20 years in Silicon Valley, where I worked for fast growth companies, Salesforce, LinkedIn, among others, one of the biggest hurdles for my success and everybody's success was always trying to find the right information at the right time. I basically think that in order to do a good job in anything that you really do, you have to have clarity on what you're trying to achieve. That's the first thing, of course. And then finally, once you have that clarity, then it's about having the right knowledge, skills, support, and all the right tools in order to achieve success and progress towards those goals every day. And the moment you don't have it, it just creates friction and frustration. And so often in companies, it's trying to find the right person, find the right information, find the right application in order to just do the job that you have. And so the vision of the everything internet is super powerful. because it really makes it so much easier as a user to come in, or an employee, and get the information you need so you can progress towards success. And it really ties super well into what we're all about. I'm the Chief Business Officer over at LMS 365. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a company that's focused on learning, performance, and engagement, what we call human success. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about what this is really all about. And you saw a little bit in this demo that John just gave about how you can use the everything internet to really provide information and insight into making sure that people are focusing on the right things at the right time, but also connecting the tissue between the various people by giving kudos or really upping the engagement between people. And the reason why we're so passionate about this is because if you look at all the data that's out there, it basically says the same thing. And it says that most people are disengaged and not happy with their jobs. 2 out of 3 employees really want to quit their jobs. And you see these statistics over and over again. And it's so frustrating. We saw these last year, we saw them the year before, and they're not really changing much. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at Gallup or Forbes or McKinsey or Josh Bersin, they're all kind of saying the same thing, that 2 out of 3 people, or 70% of people, want to quit their jobs due to a lack of career and skills development. And what this really means, if you dig a little bit deeper, is that people feel stuck. They don't feel like they have any momentum in their life. They're not getting the support or the information they need to really feel like there's progress in their life. Yet we know that the companies who have figured out how to engage and motivate and give people the information and engagement they need, those organizations are much more successful. Engaged employees provide 59% more better ideas to organizations. And what does that do? Well, if you think about it, every single day, you expect employees to show up to provide innovative, creative ideas to solve the challenges that you have. Sometimes those challenges are small, sometimes they're mid-sized, and sometimes they're massive challenges that you have, maybe about just the future of your company. And in order for employees to feel valued and they're contributing to the future of the organization, you need to provide that environment where they can actually progress towards those goals. And the reason why, if you click to the next slide, is that the companies who are successful in engaging their employees by providing clarity and goals for them and the right tools at the right time, those organizations see a higher level of profitability. And so it's an imperative on all of us as leaders, as business people, to support our team members with the right environment so they can get the right information at the right time so they can be successful. And we need to move from company efficiency and growth and profitability, this incessant focus on efficiency and growth and profitability, which to us are all about outcomes. If you provide an environment where people are supportive and engaged and ultimately motivated to do great work, what you'll see is much better outcomes for business. So we need to move from company efficiency, growth, and profitability to employee productivity, happiness, and success. And we believe very firmly that we're in the middle of a revolution right now. We are witnessing a people revolution, and thank God it's about time. Because the first generation of solutions that were really focused on people were really about managing people as resources, admin, payroll, vacation tracking, making sure that you're compliant, making sure that you're adhering to the policies that we've set as a company. And don't get me wrong, those are very important. They will continue to stay important into the future. But we also, I think, realized fairly quickly that this is not enough to really motivate people. Of course, we need to make sure they're paid, but it's not enough if you want to provide an environment where people are motivated to do the best work of their life. We thought then we could solve this by really kind of what we go into a future that we call about people and culture, where we kind of change the idea of what the work really should be or what the office really should be. We call this Work 2.0 or people and culture revolution, where the office kind of became a playground. I'm sure many of you have been through this revolution where the office went from being kind of a soulless place where you kind of dreaded to go to at least a little bit more fun, where there was kombucha on tap, maybe free food, pizza nights, there were maybe foosball tables, ping pong tables, you got cool swag. And at least it made you feel like there was a purpose for you going into the office and being together and so on. But that alone is not really solving the underlying issue of, do we give people the motivation and the skills so they feel like they're progressing in their lives? Yes, it made everything a little bit more enjoyable, and that's super important. That's not going away either. But we firmly believe that what we're witnessing right now is the third iteration of this people revolution, and we call this human success. And human success is all about making sure that the employees are empowered to succeed every single day, that they have the learning that they need to be successful today, but also in the future, that they have a path that's suitable for them, that gets them towards a goal that they want to get towards. Career paths are highly individual. Sometimes you want to get more experience. Sometimes you want to get learn new skills. Sometimes you want a bigger title or more salary. There's all kinds of different motivations and reasons. And getting on a path that motivates you ultimately brings out the best in people. But it becomes deeper than that. It's also about the deep engagement and fulfillment that you can get from the work that you're doing with the team members that you're working here every day. And ultimately, a lot of that comes from being in an environment where you feel supported, where you feel that you're getting the mentorship and the coaching that you need to be successful so you can do the best work of your life. And so if you go to the next slide, this is really what the Human Success Platform is all about. The Human Success Platform is really about unlocking and creating unparalleled learning, growth, and engagement for every single employee every single day. And when you think about why this is important, is because this is where employees spend the majority of time, and we need to unlock this if we want to see better business outcomes and more happy and engaged employees. Right now, when you think of a timeline of how we engage with employees, we spend weeks, oftentimes months, hiring people, and it's super important. And there's so much happening in the world of hiring and recruiting, and it's great to see. And I've worked in that space myself for many years. But once an employee is inside your company, they oftentimes spend years, if not decades, with you. And what are you really doing to ensure that they're motivated, they're growing, they're learning new skills, that they're engaged with the team and the mission of the company every single day? And there's oftentimes efforts happening, but it's very sporadic and it's not consistent. And this is what we want to solve for. This is what LMS's mission is all about, solving what we call human success, ensuring that people get on this path so they can get the best skills that they need in the moment when they need it to do the best work of their life. And this is what human success is all about. And we call this the human success trifecta, basically. It's about learning and performance and engagement. And the reason why these three are so important is because on their own, of course, they're very powerful. Putting an employee on a path where they're learning consistently is super important for their growth today, but also in the future. I used to work at a company called LinkedIn. Hopefully many of you know it and maybe use it every single day. But I can tell you, we also they also sold a product on learning, and we have an integration with them at LMS 365. And we did a lot of research into how can we ensure that people are learning the right skills for future success. There was one stat that always kind of blew my mind. It said that within the next 5 years, 90% of all the skills that you have are outdated, not irrelevant, but outdated, because skills get outdated very quickly. And so it's of course imperative that you're providing a learning environment for your employees to constantly stay up to date on the skills that matter, not just today for success, but also for the future. And I think of just about my own career journey, spending over 20 years in Silicon Valley. Now I'm in Copenhagen working at LMS 365. And so many of the skills that I think of, that I had 5 years ago or 10 years ago are already outdated. And it's on us, of course, to make sure that we are staying current and we're upskilling and reskilling ourselves constantly, but also we're providing those tools for our employees. Engagement is really ensuring that people are motivated by the work that they're doing and also by the team members that they're working with. Making sure that people feel engaged and supported and motivated by being part of something bigger than themselves. Those are the moments when you feel there's some magic happening. And we have the tools now to actually make sure that that happens every single day, making sure that people are checking in on a frequent basis, that we're supporting each other with the right information and the right nudges so we can actually progress towards the goals that we have. And then finally, performance. Why is that so important? I'll tell you, in the last couple of years, I spent a lot of time with CEOs across the world. And so many of them ask me one thing: Robin, how do I ensure that people are working on the right things and that we're measuring their performance towards the right outcomes for our business success? And so being able to put in clear goals for each individual person and each individual department that you have becomes so much easier then to ensure that people feel like they're making progress towards the future that both benefits them personally, but also, of course, the business itself. And the magic really happens when all of these come together. This is why we call this human success, because at the intersection of learning and engagement and performance, you find something really interesting. When you have an employee who's learning frequently all the time, and they're deeply engaged with the work that they're doing and the team they're working with, You have those model team members that everybody points to and says, I want to work with that person. They're showing up with energy and conviction and excitement every day, but they're constantly becoming better. Those are great team members. And when you have an employee who's performing really well and constantly learning new skills for the future, you're optimizing outcomes, not just for today, but also for the future projects that you might undertake. And finally, when you have an employee who's performing really well and engaged in the work that they're doing, it drives this insanely great future potential. I can tell you as a leader who's hired hundreds, if not maybe thousands of people in my time, I look at those people and I say, those are the people that we should promote or give more responsibility to or put in different parts of the business, because you can see the future potential that they're crushing their goals, they're engaged in the work that they're doing, and they're joy to work with. And so the magic happens when all these three individual disciplines come together. That's why we call the combination of this the human success trifecta. It's about learning, performance, and engagement every single day. So hopefully that's inspired you a little bit about what you just saw from John, what he showed in the intranet. That's, of course, about not because the human success idea is not just about a platform and a product, which of course you should be using every single day, whether you use ours or somebody else's, but you should really be thinking about how do I unlock this in my employees. But the beauty of what John just showed is it all coming together into one single place. And that is so hard to achieve, because the moment you ask your employees to go all these different places to have those moments or experiences, it just becomes very diffuse. So Travis, I want to hand it over to you so you can go through an example of what this all looks like when it comes together.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Robin. So as Robin outlined, human success is what we're all about here at LMS 365. And to visualize this and show you exactly what this looks like in praxis, I've decided to tell a little story about someone very near and dear to us all here at LMS 365. This is Helen. And Helen, she's a new hire at our favorite company, Contoso. Helen, she's joined the team here very recently as a marketing member at the team, but she's got some ambitions, and those ambitions are to become a team leader. Now, at Contoso, they've implemented the Human Success Platform, and as part of that, at the end of each week, Helen is completing her Engaged check-in. And that's what we can see happening over here on the side of the screen. She's replying to some questions that the organization has chosen. And as part of this, she's reflecting on her progress. She's talking about her challenges that she's faced over the week. And she's also receiving feedback from her manager, as well as giving recognition to those who've helped her out throughout that period of time. As part of this onboarding process, as soon as she's starting up, we have Learn, which is allocating Helen the role-based training that she needs to take, the onboarding, which all employees need to take at Contoso, the marketing team training path to bring her up to speed on how to do her job. And that's what we're seeing in this image here, is that learning content being delivered here within Teams. Helen can complete this whenever and wherever she wants to. Here, the Human Success Platform, LMS 365, is integrated across the entire Microsoft 365 suite, allowing her to really, truly consume this learning in the flow of work, be that within Teams, in her web-based intranet, on her Teams mobile, whatever makes most sense for her. So Helen has been with Contoso now for a few weeks. Perform is now automating a one-on-one conversation with her manager using a suggested agenda. Now, all of this is completely flexible, so you're able to decide what kind of cadence you're wanting to do, what kind of conversations are important for you, whether those be one-on-ones or probationary conversations or annual appraisals. But all of this would be automated within the context of how this marketing team is wanting to structure those conversations. Together with her manager, they're going to reflect on her progress. They're going to set goals that are in alignment with the wider goals of the company, so-called OKRs, which are also housed within the Human Success Platform or updated to a system like Viva Goals. And this is going to provide clear development paths and support Helen through this process so that not only can she have ambitions, but know how to accomplish those. Reform's going to suggest a range of goals and key results that would be suitable for her specific ambitions to become that team lead. Like many of us, Helen has never heard of OKRs before the company said they had some. So Learn is going to automate this introduction to the objective and key result learning items, and that'll be showing up automatically in her Learn plan. So a few check-ins and one-on-ones later. Engage is highlighting that the progress towards achieving one of these goals is behind where it needs to be. As part of the Engage platform, it's not just about you reporting in how you've been doing and how you're feeling, but also highlighting where you are with your specific goals and how that supports the rest of the organization. And therefore, Perform's going to be recommending some additional suggested learning paths within Learn on how she can become that team leader. And this might be improving communication skills or delegating tasks and taking some courses that would support that activity. Back in Learn, she's being guided through this development journey through individual courses that are being suggested by our deep integration within the Azure OpenAI platform. It could be also based off of her role-based automated enrollment into courses. But the whole process is guiding Helen so that she does have a clear vision of how to get where she wants to go. Helen's picking up the skills to give her confidence to put them into practice, specifically working on her presentation skills and her abilities to delegate to other team members. And she starts giving the team update at the all hands every week in order to practice those skills, gains additional confidence, and ups her chances to achieve her ultimate goals within the organization. So now we've arrived to the end of the year. Time for the dreaded annual review. But luckily she's got Perform, which is automating an annual reflection. And what all of us have certainly encountered at one time or another, this form of recency bias where somebody asks you what you did last weekend and you can only remember what you did yesterday. Helen is supported by all of the information that's been collected via Engage and her conversations with the one-on-ones with her manager, and she's able to highlight those successes and challenges that she's experienced through the year. So the reflections and the feedback, the recognition that she's received from her colleagues for the well done tasks and being a supportive team member, all of this is being accessed directly in this reflection and in the annual appraisal. Her training progress and goal achievement is also clearly highlighted without her having to go in and reinvent the wheel. And finally, once she's gone through her period of reflecting on how she's been doing this year, Helen and her manager are going to sit down and discuss how she's been doing, that she hit the ground running, and reflect on how quickly she's been developing those skills, which they highlighted right at the beginning when she arrived. And Helen finds out that she's on her path to a promotion. So congratulations to Helen, who's now become a team leader here at Contoso. And I hope that that was a good high-level view of what we're doing with the Human Success platform. Again, Robin and I were from LMS 365 that are deep partners here today with Content Formula. And if you do have any additional questions about the kind of customers that we're working with, the types of functionality that we can help you with, and also, in general, how we can help drive human success at your organization, please do let us know in the chat, raise your hand, And otherwise, do reach out after this webinar if there's any desire for a deeper dive demo of any of these aspects, because combined, it's a very powerful solution for human success, but they are also available individually if you as an organization have a need for learning or specifically for performance or engagement. So with that, after you've seen all of our wonderful badges here from the G2 leadership, I'll hand over to you, Alex, and let you take over the screen.
Thanks very much, Travis. That was a great presentation. And I guess the last point that we wanted to make was, first of all, thank you very much for everyone who's attended the webinar. Thanks for your time, and appreciate that everybody has busy days. So we appreciate you taking the time to come to this webinar. If you've got any questions or you'd like to discuss anything that you've seen today, please feel free to reach out to Content Formula at hello@contentformula.com. Dan, John, Travis, and Robin, thank you so much for your time. It was a great webinar, and yeah, we'll see everybody soon.